Hello, this is Astro Breeze, and we are looking at transits for this coming week, June 4th through 11th. And let's just wanted to make sure. Okay. Gosh, we're moving into Gemini things. So we'll get to that in the charts, but I have this aspect wheel up because I want to make a couple thoughts for you on your astrology understanding and some ways to track things. But I wanted to just point this out. This is beautiful symmetrical geometry. This is just sacred geometry at its finest. Yeah. So this is a circle, but it's also I don't remember the name of the shape, but 12 sides. It's a 12-sided polygon. Let's just put it that way. And this represents our wheel, our charts that we look at. And this is the mathematical things that us high-minded astrologers have to think about. So let me just do a quick explanation of this because, I mean, if it's simple, it's great, but there's so many nuances to this. There's so much you can look at this. So right at the top, that when there's two planets together or you have a transit over another planet, it's called a conjunction. And the angle, it said, I cut it off, it's like 0 degrees, it's just that 0 point. And then if we just look around, you can just see how it has this blue line on the very outside, just connecting everything, okay, all these aspects. So we're gonna go over them. And then on either side of that one, well, let's just back up. If we go from the conjunction here, going out to the next aspect, on either side, if we go 30 degrees away, that is your semi-sextile. And interesting thing, it has it written right up here, semi-sextile. And that is 1/12 of the circle. Okay. And then the next aspect, I'll go over these in just a second, a little more, but I want to make this point, is the sextile. So that's two 30-degree spots or 2/12 of the circle. And that's on either side, of course, right? And that's illustrated by this blue line coming out right here. All right, then if we go 3 clicks or 3/12, 1, 2, 3, we come to the square, which is a quarter of the way. See, it says 3/12, and then we do our math, and if we divide 3 into 12, we get 4, so we have our 1/4 of the circle. And that is our square, and that's represented in red right there on both sides. See, it has to be both sides because it's a circle. It goes this way and that way. I mean, doesn't that just make sense? Okay. And then if we go, the next one, or say 1, 2, 3, so we go 4, 6. And so we would go 1, 2, 3, 4. Or they're saying the reason they're saying, or I should say 4/12. I'm not saying 6. Sorry, 4/12 because we went 4 into the 12, right? And that's both sides. And that is our trine. It's 120 degrees. That is our trine. And see, and they just did the math over here. So 4/12, if you divide it by 2, you'd have 2/6. And you divide it by 2 again, you'd have 1/3. So that is 1/3 because there's 3. And this is just one of them. Whoops, sorry, my cursor, just goes from our beginning point over this way. And then it goes over to this way. And then these two are the same amount apart. They're both 120. We got that equilateral triangle. Okay. And then if we go one more, we go 5/12 or quincunx. See, quin is for 5 and unx. Quinc is 5 and unx is 12. So that's 5/12. And that is our 150-degree angle, right? And we go 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. And this is, we'll just keep going. And then we go one more all the way to the other side. That is our opposition, or 6/12. We went 6 times all the way around. And if we do our math down, you divide this by 2, it's 3/6. Divide this by 2, it's 2/4. Divide that by 2, it's 1/12. Okay, so that's what that is. And then it just repeats going backward on the other side. And we can just see these lines here drawn. And they did, instead of red going down this way, they did the orange, right for the square. But we can see how this is. So this is like whatever position on the wheel we're looking at, and its immediate neighbors have nothing in common with it. Nothing, except for maybe the season. But I mean, we could be going from one season to another. So no, I mean, they have nothing in common. If this was masculine, these two would be feminine because it goes masculine, feminine, all the way around. If this is fixed, this would be cardinal on this side, and this would be mutable on the other side. If this was Aries, well, let's just say it's Gemini, because that's what I want to illustrate. If this was Gemini, which would be air, right? So the sign before that is Taurus or Earth, and then the sign after it is Cancer or water. So is there nothing in common? And that same thing down here. Okay, so from this point, our beginning point, all the way down to this quincunx, same thing, nothing in common. Okay, if this was air, you know, this would be let's say water, say Scorpio, or if it's the other side, it'd be Capricorn or Earth. Nothing in common. So we can just go through the same things. If this were Scorpio, that would be feminine, and then this would be feminine, and then this is their masculine Gemini. See, so nothing in common on the semi-sextiles or the quincunx. So those are hard points. They're not the major aspects, but they're there, and you should learn about them. I mean, I look at them all the time. You know, it's like everybody at a family at dinner together, all on their cell phones, talking to some other people. That's what the quincunxes are like. There's not in common. There's good and bad about that. Well, that's another time, but I just want to point this out. The sextiles are the same polarity. So again, if this was Gemini, this would be masculine, and then feminine, masculine again. So that would be Leo on one side and say Aries on the other. And those are masculine signs, right? And then we do the same thing, to the square. Now the square is interesting. Well, anyway, these two had in common at least the polarity. There is still not elemental agreements, but there's always something, right? So if this we said we're Leo, and the other one would be Aries. So we have both, fire, but then this would be air. But then we still have that masculine fire air connection. All right, now we have like these would be like the seasons, right? But so if this was Gemini, this would be the mutable part of spring. So, this one would then be, let's see if we're going that way. It would be Virgo. That's the mutable part, the next mutable season. And then we would have Sagittarius, the next mutable, and then we would end up with Pisces, the next mutable. All right. So we have, they would all be the same quality. They're all fixed. Mutable, if we're saying that, this one's starting in Gemini. So they're all mutable, but then there's one of each element, right? So, if we had Gemini up here, it would be air, and then our Virgo would be, God, I'm not speaking right. Yeah, our Virgo would be earth, and then our Sagittarius would be fire, and then water here would be our Pisces. So we can see those there. And then our trines are the elements where they get along. So if this was air, being Gemini, this one would be Libra air, and then this one would be Aquarius air. So they would all be air in the trine. But then we have different elements, right? So this would be we would have mutable air here, and then we would have cardinal air here, and then we'd have fixed air over here. So see, there is some still differences in there, but then being all the air, they're all masculine, right? And then we already talked about these quincunxes, and then there's the opposition. So, that polarity is, outward. So that's one thing that they get along with. So even though they're opposite, it could be enemies squaring off, or it could be making a balance, right? So this would be, say, Gemini again, and that would be our masculine polarity. And then what's opposite of that would be Sagittarius, and that's masculine polarity as well. But we have a fire, and then we have air. So those two complement each other because they're in that outward masculine subdivision. Okay, so this is really cool to understand. The reason why I wanted to talk about this, two things. One, I wanted to mention this here with Gemini, because we're going into a lot of Gemini for a little bit. And I want you to just see that, first of all, notice where Gemini is in your chart. And if you have anything in Gemini or any of the mutable signs, would be Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, you will be having aspects, so if you're in the squares, Virgo and Pisces, those are getting squares from all the Gemini. If you're Sagittarius, you're getting the opposition, and then the other angles, the other planets, you can see if those are harmonious or discordant to you. So this is important to do. And also monthly, as we look at the moon, the moon is making aspects, every month to planets in our chart. So that goes on all the time. And then the sun through the year, I think we talked about this in some older videos, where knowing this, it's like right now, all you Geminis, it's coming home, it's in the conjunction. But then, that we were just in the semi-sextile, and then now we're going to go into when the sun leaves Gemini and goes into Cancer, you'll get the semi-sextile again, and it goes round and round. So these things are good to know throughout the year when we're looking at where all these planets are and where they are in your chart. All right, this, I think that's all I wanted to say. I mean, you could talk for hours on it, but I'm gonna go ahead and look at today's chart. There we go. Okay. All right, and then I think I got, at least for now, the aspect, the pointer in the middle set to the kind of the right degrees. Tell you, it's like, learning some of these programs are master's degrees in learning these. Okay, so I started yesterday because we were talking last week where we left off, where we have all this conjunction. Now look at all of these planets are now in Gemini. Like a week and a half ago, we had all, they were at the end of the Taurian stuff. But interesting today, this is the first moon, Taurus moon, that's going to cross over Uranus since Jupiter, I think, will have moved off of it. So that's kind of interesting. So now moon will just be interacting with this and with Uranus until it moves out of there. So that's be interesting. Yeah, look at this lineup. We have, we have the two benefics right next to each other. We have Mercury just going into its own sign. So if you think things were busy, we're going to get busier. And look at this benefic, Venus. They're going to travel together for a while, as we have the moon getting closer to its new moon in Gemini. Of course, new moon. But anyway, it just really things are going to ramp up if they haven't already. They should be starting to ramp up quite a bit. Okay, one thing here, I have this set for some of these other angles too. You can see we have Pluto kind of making a lot of planets, either making aspects to planets or a lot of planets making aspects to Pluto. But look, it's like the hub. So we've got a square and a half. This red one is a square and a half to these, to the sun, Venus. And it's like, yay, no. But I think it's going to maybe help buffer things that are coming up from the depths. We have a lot of populist Pluto action happening right now. A lot of battling against the forces of evil, a lot of counter lawsuits and noise being rallied against negative endeavors. Let's just put it that way. And then we have Pluto making a trine over here to Mercury at the same time. So there's your information. There's your page of Page of Wands, or there's your information horn, or this is your blabbermouth, going, look at that, look, I saw, bringing a lot of this information up to light. And that's really good. Right here, as it ingresses into Gemini. So notice now how much your mental capacities might pick up, or how distracted you are. With Mercury here going really quickly through the masculine part of its signs. And then Pluto is just finishing up with a square over to Mars. So there's some nasty stuff that was coming. And then, we got it's like being caught. It's like being found out and told on. That's what I see. And then Pluto, we've got a sextile over to Neptune. So the nebulousness is weak. I mean, it's a nice aspect. So it's not like, I don't think it's further weakening. I think it's further or confusing. I think it's people knowing like, no, that's bullshit. Like my bullshit detector is like dusted off and ready to go. So I think that's kind of how we marched into this week. All right, today and then this week we have the moon. We could see it there in Taurus starting off. So the moon is going to go through Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo this week. So we have again all those, kind of personal me signs, except we do cross into the other side of the chart with Cancer and then into a new area with Leo. So a lot of that me primal stuff is going to start to turn into, well, how is it going to affect everybody? How is it going to be for the all? Because it's when it moves into Cancer, that's its home sign, and it gets more emotional, it gets more feeling oriented, it gets more intuitive, perceptive, family oriented as it's going in through Cancer. Because and that's going to be very interesting. See, it's going to kind of clash with a lot of the air stuff that we have going on. So we're going to have air and water. So it's kind of like rain, mist, fog. It is the elemental themes, kind of what when the moon is there. And then at the end of the week, it'll move into a sister, or I should say a sextile to Gemini. It's going to move into Leo, and that will be much more on the same page as we finish up the weekend. So that is the moon, and it's just look in your chart and to see where this is, and then also note like where your natal moon is, and then how, when is the moon going to conjunct your natal moon, and then when is it going to be square in opposition to it. So like mine is in a fixed sign. So I'll note mine's in Aquarius. So, when it's in Aquarius, I note that, and then I start noticing at the fixed signs, how I might feel and act, the fixed squares, and then I have the opposition, so it's just good to, I mean, we have all that. So, and then I can note what, when it's in air signs, like when it goes into Gemini, it's going to be good for my moon because that's a nice aspect away from it. That's a sextile. That's why I showed you that in the beginning. So it's good to know sometimes monthly as well as the sun every year, because that's going to be in that area for longer, but the moon every month. Good to know stuff. Okay, what today? Well, we got Mercury trining Pluto. It's past it now. Let me go back. Okay, so there we were. We can see the trine, and then it's getting closer. See, if I go back to Sunday, it's getting closer. See, as Mercury changed signs, then it's picked up on that trine. All right, and let's go back to today. What else we got? Oh, yeah, look at this. Okay, so we're kind of running into a few walls with a few things today. The sun, we've got the sun conjunct Venus here. Look at, they were 13 yesterday, then they're 14 today, and then we have this Jupiter Mercury conjunction, and then we have the Sun Venus conjunction, right? We talked just a hair about that last week, but feel that this is interesting in Gemini. So this is busy. This is a lot of interests, a lot of things start perking up. But one thing we just have to watch for this whole next year with Jupiter in Gemini, it's not in its favorite place. I mean, it's opposite of its home. It wants to be in Sag, or Pisces, so when it's in Gemini and Virgo, it's in its detriment. It's not in its happy place. It keeps expanding. It's already wanting to enlarge and expand. And when it's in Gemini, it just gets woo, it just like the 2-year-old goes wild. 2-year-old gone wild. It's kind of like, oh dear. So it's like things can quickly get out of hand. Things can quickly get expanded. You can quickly take on too much. You can quickly say something before you mean to. you can quickly open your mouth and insert foot. So be careful of getting athlete's tongue this year. Don't be afraid to say you're sorry or say, whoops, backtrack, hold, or rewind, the mind is faster than the hands. It's just things are going on like double track. So that is going to be kind of a theme here and for the next few years. All right. Woo! Go ahead. See, we haven't even started the week. Okay. All right. So we'll move on. Moving on. So we got these squares and this square and a half kind of energy with these conjunctions. I didn't have them put them on because it's just kind of hard to see, but we can still see all these conjunctions taking place. And then the moon is, Wednesday, it's getting closer, and it just gone over Mercury. So then we have, this is always an interesting time. So on Wednesday, this is at 5 something in the afternoon Eastern time. So it'd be earlier West Coast and like 9 at night in London, around over that way. But this one we, every month when the moon goes over Gemini, we have that think feel or feel think, either congruency or conflict. And here, we're having it in, sometimes the sign is one, it favors one over the other. This one favors Mercury because it's in its own sign. So you may go head over feelings. You may choose your head or your brain, intellectualizing over intuition. Yeah. See? Mercury, moon. So this will be on Wednesday. So it doesn't mean like at exactly this time. I would be aware of that all day Wednesday. Okay. Yeah, so we got the moon, it's like it just, it just dealt with all of this through the day. It conjuncted, because I don't know if that's a word, conjuncted. It went over Jupiter and Mercury. So it expanded and then talked about it. Oh, goodness. Okay, we can go on and let's see. Okay, so here we are. Let's just go a few hours because it's just so much nicer. Yeah. That's 16 degrees. I think we looked at it last week. Okay, yeah, look at this. This is just so cool. Back up days. This is just one of these neat alignments. Now we have the moon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets. 5 in Gemini from 2 degrees to 16. Pretty tight. It's less than half, right? It's like 16, 15, 14 degrees span of that sign. So a lot going on. And it's like, if you have things anywhere from 2 degrees to 16, and then, the first half of the sign, you're going to be, or any of the other, anything else that it's making aspects to. And it could have it in those mutable signs or any other, or in the air signs and get the trines from it. Okay, but anyway, that's very cool. And so like what we have, like 9 in the morning, East Coast time, we have this beautiful triple conjunction. Wow, it'd be neat to be born with that, right? Sun and moon and Mercury and in Venus in Gemini, and then Mercury in its own sign, and then Jupiter and Gemini. That'd be very interesting. Everything is always interesting. South node in an air sign, north node in a fire sign. That's kind of cool. We have a trine and sextile with those. They're at 12 degrees, close to all that. That'd be interesting. This would be an interesting chart. And then look, we have Pisces. We got the Piscean square, Saturn to all that, but it's after. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, this is a very interesting new moon here. So make intentions of anything mental clarity, movement, study, getting something, getting the mind quicker, things to help the mind. There's some really good herbs like Bacopa. I think there's one from Ayush Herbs, I believe it is, from Bacopa Complex. Bacopa Complex, really good for the mind. Also a phosphatidylcholine and all the phosphatidylserine, those derivatives of lecithin, really good to help, make the synapses, the fattiness in the brain and the nerves, insulating the nerves and the nerve sheaths, helping the mental the mental capacities and qualities, helping this quickening that we're going to have of the mind. Mind might be going faster than we can comprehend unless we kind of have things to help it. Gotu kola, another good herb, green tea, different Gayusa tea. What's the other one? Yerba mate. Some different types of mental stimulants to help deal with a lot of this energy that the mind is going to be moving through. This Gemini stuff is expansive. It's erratic. It's fast. It shifts, and to keep up with it, you got to be on your game. So I'm doubling up on all that stuff for myself, and I've really noticed a big difference. So sharpen the pencil. So anyway, this is a big new moon, big time. It's going to be kind of a real good taste of the next several years that we're going to be moving into. The other thing, let's see, the moon. Yeah, we already mentioned that when the moon gets over through here, it's going to go, oh, happy, happy, joy, joy, wee. And then after it gets through, once it gets to 18 degrees, it will square Saturn. So it gets a little reprieve. Saturn actually is a great balancing planet for all the other planets. It will cool off Mars. It will reduce the overexpansion of Jupiter. It will settle the mind of Mercury. Mercury gets expansive. It will be like, hey, whoosh, sit down, study, focus. Okay, yes, Daddy. It will cool the sun. It will help the kind of like the runaway emotional moon. It kind of helps, like, now it's not that bad, dear. It helps rein that in. And then it also, helps the overindulgence of Venus. Oh, I love sugar. I want my triple latte with blah, blah, and sweetener and corn and fat. And it's like, Saturn comes in and is like, is that the best choice you can make? Venus is like, no. So it's a good balancing point. And I think that sometimes it's important to keep in mind the more positive side of things. But Saturn is really a good balancer, of all the planets. I'm just talking about the inner planets right now. Traditional. So anyway, keep that in mind. But look at these aspects. Look how tight they are. We have squares, sextiles, conjunctions, square and a halves. Not a lot else. We don't have anything breaking away yet. Moon is still with the pack. Nothing, the moon is the only thing right at the moment that's going to be making a lot of other angles and aspects. All right, moving on. Friday. Well, we get the moon moving through all of that happy, and then it settles down. It's like, okay, come on, time to go to bed. So the moon settles down here, then it's going to start breaking away from the pack. So we already have it a different angle here. We've got the quincunx. As soon as it goes here, it's actually right at the end of Gemini. It starts to pick up on that quincunx over to Pluto. So some emotional depth here, Friday coming on when the moon gets into that, it just can't relate. It's in this nice Cancer, and then it's got to go depthy, into maybe it's like, it's like, I just wanted to chill at home, but now I have to go, maybe I got to go to the protest, or I got to go march, or I got to go picket, or I got to go online, or I got to go on social media and speak my mind against some of this, which right now, I think we should all be speaking against this nuclear threat. This is just out of control. I think we just have to say no to this, no to war. Whose war are we fighting? It's going back to Creedence Clearwater Revival songs, I ain't no senator's son. So what is all this stuff? I think is this Pluto in rebellious Aquarius, egalitarian, are like, who are we fighting for? What is this? The light of day is definitely shining on this. And, this is indicative of what we have going on. So right here, we're dissatisfied with this status quo, and we just have to, as a populace, put a stop to this nonsense. Anything in fear in this war stuff has to just stop. And we as people have to not tolerate all around it. Okay, Saturday. So we got this moon weekend, right? So now we get, but it picks up on a trine to Saturn. So we might have Saturn kind of calming down a little bit of the ultra emotionalism, maybe some reality, maybe putting in some healthy structure. Let's just put it that way. Well, make a game plan. That's a good idea. But then we also start picking up on a square over, here to Venus. The sun and Venus are going to square that. So that's also bringing some reins and reality into this. Woohoo! Maybe overspending, over committing, over talking, over indulging. So Saturn will, as we were, even the day before, I think, it's still within orb of all this. Look, it's like 18, so it's all week. Saturn is still putting in a little bit of its influence. I kind of don't think it's going to rain on the parade, but it's just keeping the kids calm down. It's like, we're not going to feed the busload of children sugar as we're going to the fairgrounds. We're going to give them a nice protein fat meal and have them soothing things, kind of. We're not going to let this get out of hand. So that's how I'm looking at this Saturn right here. What else do I have for you here? Saturday. We talked about that. Okay, no, Mars. Yeah, Mars is just at the end of Aries. It's about to leave its own sign. It's like, it's like digging its heels down. It's already getting grounded into Taurus. Like it's already like, no, you can't make me. Yes, we can. No, so it's going, it's going into its detriment. Isn't it? Yep. Mars is in its detriment in Taurus. And from June 9th, we go ahead a day. Did it go? Yeah, there it is. From June 9th to July 20th. So we've got like 6 weeks of it in its detriment. Now, this is interesting because we just had a lot of signs move out of Taurus. And now we have, Mars moving into Taurus. So this will be interesting. I'm thinking near the end of that time when it goes over Uranus might be interesting. Actually, let's see what day that is. Let's go weeks real quick, because this will be an interesting day. We have Mars right there. Okay, let's go day now. So what are we at? July 14th. Oh, and there's another funky day in here, but here, look at July 15th. This is this may not be real great, but this is trining over to, well, it's a late trine. Anyway, we'll get there. But these, you've got aggressive disruption. You've got something coming down, immediate, quick fire. Mars, aggressive, rash, fire, war, knives, and then here you've got sudden. We have could be sudden earth, sudden grounding. Something hits the ground suddenly. There's some interesting things with this here. What else was it? Oh, yeah. Right on the 11th. Look at this day. Oh my God. We'll talk about this. This is one of them crazy days. But what the thing I want to talk about was the sun here at 19 of Cancer is at the first square from when the sun was at the eclipse a few months ago. It was, at 19 Aries. So this is the first square vibration away from that. And I think this is going to be a hairy day on some level. There's the moon will come in here making this interesting connection here with Pluto and Uranus and Mars. The moon always acts as a trigger. So it's probably, we've got Pluto, a trine to Pluto with oh, look at the malefics here, but at least it's a trine, but it's still malefics. So anyway, this could be a very interesting day. I'm not going to totally get into it now, but I just wanted to find out the day. So this is up, and then we have 2 days later, we have that. So Mars is already coming into aspect to that. So, oh boy. Yeah, so that's very interesting. Let me go back here. I just, in astrology, we have to just sometimes go and look ahead at things. Okay. And to see what we're moving into. All right, so Mars moves into its detriment, and then it's going to, as it gets closer to, well, we'll notice things as it gets closer to Uranus. Other things will be coming into play, but that will be interesting. And then Mars will move out of Taurus, and then it will join the pack, and then Venus will move out, and then Sun will move out. So that will be interesting. We're going to have this, we got this quick Gemini burst here, and then the entourage near the Sun moves on. So we can see the chart now already in like about a week, already starting to expand out, right? As the moon starts to move around. And that is pretty much taking us to the end of the week. Anything is Sunday. Sunday, there's quite a bit of moon aspects. The moon will move later in the day. It moves into Leo, which will go on into Monday right before we meet up again next week. So moon making a nice trine over to the North Node. This could be a feeling on where you're going. And this is like the world. This is how, this is mundane astrology, not you personally, but this is kind of like, this is interesting because we got fire planets, or fire planet moon. So this is energy, drive, ambition toward it's like the whole is the planet, as we move forward as a intellect species, intelligent species. Yeah, so we end the week on a nice fire moon, getting lively for the beginning of next week. All right, so get into this Gemini energy. Remember to ground, remember to stay hydrated. Herbs for the mind, extra fats, keeping that air energy contained. Yeah, that's about all I can think of. Okie doke. Hope you enjoyed this, and we will meet up next week. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.